Good morning, guys. Today, Will Smith, in the top 10 rules for success, shares his first rule, and that is improve yourself. And he gives an example of how every morning when he wakes up, his number one goal and purpose is to prepare himself to work on himself to help others. And he realized that this is the most important thing, is improving ourselves, improving himself, because he's going to affect everyone around him. And the same goes with you. So the more that we work to improve ourselves, the more that we will improve things around us and those around us. So it's the most beautiful relationship in nature. So the more you improve yourself and give of yourself, the more that feeds back on you, improves you, and then it improves those around us. So we have to take an example from Will Smith and just work on our mind, body, and soul every single day when we wake up, for ourselves and for each other. Have a great morning, everyone.
I find that even with cancer, if you have that belief, I'm going to try all this stuff, but it won't work, and I'm riddled with it, and there's no hope, and they start to read all these terrible diagnoses. I mean, in England, you are not allowed to say to someone, you've got 10 months to live, because that's what happens. They turn into the 10 months. You cannot diagnose
What do they
them.
tell them?
They just say, we're going to do this, and you may not survive this, but you could. And in the same way that if you're having surgery and they go, oh, look, this is a complete mess in here, there's just no way. Even in surgery, your subconscious is hearing what's going on around you. And there are many people who come out of a coma who said, I heard everything. The hearing is the last thing to go. And so if you make a choice to talk to yourself better, you can bounce back. You might as well use your mind as much as you possibly can to be well.
What you believe about yourself is the only thing that matters. At the end of the day, no matter how much outside affirmations you get or other people telling you that you're amazing, if you don't believe in your heart that you are amazing, none of that will last. Like, have you ever gone to an event, or you ever made a video or created something, or you're hanging out with a friend and they tell you how amazing you are, and that feels good, right? Like the external affirmations and validation feels great, but then it fades. That stuff doesn't last. You don't have somebody being a cheerleader for you every day, showing up in your bedroom saying, hooray, go do this, you're amazing, right? We don't have that. You have to be that for yourself. If you're constantly only getting your value as a human being from other people when they tell you that you're amazing, you're never going to love your life. You're never going to love yourself. It has to come from you. It has to come from you telling yourself and you believing that you are amazing. Well, okay, so that's a lot of words. How do you actually go off and do it? So I think for me, this is why I believe that lack of belief is the world's number one problem. I can go and meet somebody and fill them full of belief for a moment, but if they still don't believe in themselves, and they're going home back to a life that they had before, because they don't believe in themselves enough. And so you have to design habits and routines and systems and schedules to slowly shift your belief in yourself forward every single day. And a good chunk of that is what you say about yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you say? When you think about yourself, what do you say? A lot of the stuff that we say about ourselves, we wouldn't say to our worst enemies. It's rough. I actually think it's great to be your own worst critic. I think it's great. Honestly, I think for a lot of people, we're not hard enough on ourselves. Let me stick with me for a minute. We're not hard enough on ourselves, because in order to get to where you want to go, you actually need to push yourself more. The problem is why we can't do it is we don't love ourselves enough. We're not our biggest cheerleader enough. You have to balance those two things. We are very hard on ourselves, but because there's no self-love, we're not cheering ourselves on enough. We're not our biggest cheerleader. You can't handle it. Most people are already at the breaking point, like I'm sitting here in a parking lot, these, those, I guess it's kind of blurry, you can't really see them, but people hate their lives. They're barely hanging on. Most people are barely hanging on. We're barely hanging on to what we're doing. We can post all these great things on Instagram or wherever and make it look like we're enjoying our life, but most people are barely hanging on. The people who are judging you for your life and telling you that you suck hate their own lives. They are barely hanging on. So how do we get through it? Well, yes, we can be harder on ourselves, but we need to balance that with more self-love. You have to remind yourself of why you're great, what you're proud of, what you're grateful for. And it has to be consistent. Otherwise, you'll never get to where you want to go. And when you love yourself more, that actually allows you to be harder on yourself. When you love yourself more and you actually feel it, you can push yourself harder. You can be more demanding of yourself, because it's not going to push you over the edge, because you're not tying your self-worth to you accomplishing that thing. And when you don't accomplish it, you feel like a loser. It's starting from a place of I'm amazing that allows you to be way harder on yourself. When I go to events, a YouTube event, for example, or if I'm talking about anything entrepreneurship or YouTube related, I'm going in thinking I'm kick-ass. And because I feel that, I don't need to say that. Like a lot of times we feel like we need to say that because it's masking an insecurity, right? It's like those people who, we've seen those memes where when people make a little bit of money, they've got all these chains and everything, but then the people who are ultra rich, who have all the money, you look even Jay-Z, like early Jay-Z, you know, he's got all his chains and everything, and now he's like, doesn't care, you know, he's just walking around in a t-shirt and some jeans because he doesn't need to front, because he's just so self-confident now that it doesn't matter. Now it's actually expression instead of masking an insecurity. Most of us are just masking insecurities instead of actually being self-confident. And so when I'm going to an event, if I'm talking about YouTube, I'm walking in feeling amazing, and I don't need to walk around and say, hey, look at me. And it's actually the opposite. I can go up and say, hey, where do I suck? It's my favorite question to ask. Why do I suck? Where do I suck? Can you point it out? If I can find one person to tell me where I suck at something, how my videos suck, my thumbnails suck, I don't believe that they suck, right? I think they're amazing. But because I think they're so amazing, it allows me to go a lot harder on myself. And so people will give their honest opinion and say, hey, here's how I think it could be better. And so I think we need to do that more in our lives. We need to cheer ourselves up more. We need to cheer ourselves on more. So how do we do it? Let me share some practical tips for you to execute. Number one, music in the morning. Every morning, one of the most important things that I do is I put music on. And it's music that makes me move, makes me dance, there's some songs that if they came on, you would have to move, right? It doesn't mean that you're up and like dancing through the whole house, going crazy in your underwear first thing in the morning, but something that even if it's just making your head bob, there are songs that if they came on would make your head bob. And you'd probably be singing, maybe not out loud, but singing under your breath, humming a tune along. And be intentional with the lyrics. Because if we're singing out lyrics that are negative, that has a lasting impact. But if you're singing out lyrics that are positive, that also has a lasting impact. So be intentional with music that you put on every day. First, start your day with music. It's the fastest way to change your state, to go from feeling low and tired and just what day is it? What am I doing? I wake up every day like, what day is it? What am I doing today? Yeah, but I demand excellence, and that starts with music, because I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to get into the right state of mind. I can command it whenever I want just by putting on the right song. So be intentional with your music and the lyrics being positive. 2, connect to the work that you're doing and how meaningful it is. So the next thing I'll do is I'll take the dogs out, and then I'll go for what I call a believe walk. And this is probably the most important part of my morning routine, is I go for a believe walk. And it's a minimum of 20 minutes and it's a maximum of an hour. And I'll go for a walk by myself with 20 pounds on my back. I'll go rucking. I'll walk to Tim Hortons usually, get a coffee, this cost $2, two something. So if I only had, what's the best money I spend every year? Well, it's the $700 of going on my Believe walk and getting the coffee every morning. And I'm thinking about what's my intention for the day. And I'm thinking about what I want to accomplish today and the lives that I want to serve and the people I want to help and what I'm about to do today. And it's a mini celebration where most of the time we wake up like an accident, right? You wake up, you're probably late for something. You immediately look at your phone. What's on your phone? It's other people's demands for your time, other people's emergencies of what they think you should do with your schedule today, right? That's what's in your phone. All the DMs and the emails and the texts and the missed calls and it's all other people's agenda for your time. That is not an intentional life. We wake up like an accident and start falling into what other people want us to do today. That's not what you need to do, and you need to protect your time. So the morning, having a Believe walk for me, if you want to go on your own, whether it's 20 minutes or an hour, that's really just a feel thing too. I don't book anything until 10:30 at the earliest in my calendar. Most of my meetings would be 11. First meeting would be 11. Movement Makers and Brandlytics, I'll start at 10:30. And before that, there's nothing officially planned or scheduled, so that it gives my morning free to do whatever I want to do. And so if I want to go for an hour-long Believe walk instead of 20 minutes, I can do that because I'm thinking, because I'm brainstorming, because I'm going through an idea. I treat that as walking meditation. If you like to meditate. I mean, it's the same thing. I just find meditation doesn't really help me that much. I like something a little more active, so I go for my Believe walks. Do those two things. Put on a playlist, put on music every morning with lyrics that inspire you, and then go for a Believe walk. 20 minutes to think about what you want to do today, what you want to accomplish, how you want to spend your time, where you want to be intentional, so you can start living the life that you want to live. Because the only thing that matters is how you feel about yourself. Are you proud of you today? Are you happy with what you've done today? Are you joyful in how you showed up for you today? And yes, we ultimately want to serve and help others, but the only thing that matters is how you feel about yourself. So we can stop relying on external validation and somebody else's words of affirmation for us to feel worthy, and flip it to say, I am worthy. I am amazing. I can do great things. And when you can shift into that energy, you will do great things.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Good afternoon, guys. As we go on this path to try to improve ourselves each and every day, we have to remember, as Les Brown has shared with us before, and it's a powerful statement, and it's worth repeating. You are the one. You are the one that has to take full responsibility for improving yourself. And there's going to be endless ways you can improve yourself. And so look at your day today, right now, where you are. Where is there one area, one thing, one choice, having looked back on your day, that you could have done something differently, where it would have turned out in a different way? Think about just one example today. And with that same power of that one different decision, imagine applying that each and every moment, every single day, and never giving up on that. You'll see profound changes. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Knowing what you don't want helps you to know what you do want, doesn't it? Someone said to us one day, when we were trying to get them to focus upon positive things, and we sort of laid out a list of positive things that she might think about, and she said, "Oh, Abraham, I don't want those. I've already got those." And what she really meant was, the things that I want are the things that have not yet happened. And we want to help you to realize that if you're thinking about things that you want from the standpoint that they have not yet come to fruition, that they are still missing in your experience, then you're holding it in a sort of suspended position where the distance between where you are and where it is not closing. So what we're wanting you to realize is you have these patterns of thought, and law of attraction is helping you to sustain the pattern of thought that you have. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking. And so early on in your experience, by your exposure to life, you began developing some patterns of thought. Sometimes they were carefully taught to you by others. Sometimes it came because of something that you observed and then talked about and then remembered and then attracted again and then talked about it and then remembered and then attracted again. In other words, life is very interesting here, isn't it? Because you can't talk about anything for very long before it begins to replicate itself in your life experience. And it's what makes you develop your patterns of what you call truths. You say, at first I wasn't sure, and then I pondered it for a while. And once I gave it my attention, I began seeing evidence of it everywhere. And now I believe it, and now that I believe it, it's manifesting in my experience. And we say, that's really wonderful, isn't it, if it's stuff you want? But if you are repeating patterns of thought about things you do not want, and in your environment, oh, you are very, very good at that. You have this sort of mass consciousness theory that goes like this. If we don't beat the drum of our history, we are sure to repeat it again. And we say, the contrary is true. The more you beat the drum of anything, the more you activate it in your vibration. The more it is activated in your vibration, then the more law of attraction is matching you up with things like it. And the more law of attraction is matching you up with things like it, the more you observe it. And the more you observe it, the more you talk about it. The more you talk about it and observe it, the more you beat the drum of it or offer the vibration of it. The more you offer the vibration of it, the more law of attraction matches you up with it. The more law of attraction matches you up with it, the more you're living it, the more you're talking about it, the more you're beating the drum of it, the more you're offering the vibration of it. The more you're offering the vibration of it, the more the law of attraction lines you up with it. The more law of attraction lines you up with it, the more you notice it. The more you notice it, the more you talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more you offer it vibrationally. The more you offer it vibrationally, the more law of attraction lines you up with it. The more law of attraction we could go on. Your life experience is showing you that. You just cannot keep telling the same story without continuing to live the same circumstances. And so this gathering, we're calling it the art of allowing, but what it really means is the art of telling a different story, the art of telling the story the way life has helped you carve it out incrementally, but telling the story with your words, with your observations, with your expectations, with your vibration. Then when law of attraction is responding to your deliberate offering of thought, now you're getting what you want, not just what you're observing.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got more inside you. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best believed life and get some amazing wisdom from Abraham Hicks. Enjoy. Rule number 2, go with the stream.
Imagine taking your canoe down to the river's edge, a very nice, fast-moving stream, and your oars or paddles are already attached to your boat, and you put it in the water and you deliberately turn it upstream and begin paddling very hard against this fast-moving current. And we say, why not just turn and go with the flow? And our human friends invariably say, doesn't that seem lazy? That seems lazy. And then they will say, my mother would not approve of that. Or my teachers. They all had me pointing the other way. In fact, every plaque on my wall was based upon paddling upstream. And I was measured against the others who did it too. And the better we did it, the better we were able to fight that current, then the more proud our human friends were of us, and the bigger the trophies and monuments. And we hear that when you die, there are even more. And we want you to know something. In fact, it's worth writing this down. Nothing that you want is upstream. Nothing that you want is upstream. And the reason we know that is because we've seen the cycle of life. We know that source extended itself here into that which is you. And we know that you are asking, as a result of your leading edge experience, just like you knew you would, for more. And we know that source is becoming that more that you are asking for and is calling you to it. And so we know the source of the stream. And we know that when you turn and go with the stream, you feel ever so good. That's what positive emotion is. Varying degrees of it, but it's what positive emotion is. And we also know that when you buck that current, it can beat up on you pretty good. And that's what negative emotion is. We want you to understand that there is only one stream that you might be going with or against, but there is only one stream. And when you learn from those around you to go against the stream, then you want to pronounce that there are evil streams, that there are streams of sickness or streams of badness or streams of poverty. We say, no, just one stream. You're just not going with it. You say, oh, that can't be. If it's a stream of goodness, why is it beating me up so? And we say, because you're clinging to the bottom. It's beating you up because you're not going with your self-created stream. Do you get this? And that really is the strongest point that we want to make with you. This stream of well-being is a powerful stream, and it takes you downstream whether you go easily or not. In other words, when you look around at your environment, you've just got to acknowledge that well-being abounds. Your planet continues to spin in its orbit. And even beyond the well-being that is obvious, more obvious to some of you than others, granted, but even beyond the well-being that is obvious, we want to remind you that even when you get further downstream and you have that which you call your physical death, which there isn't any of, we like to be disrespectful of death since there isn't any and call it croaking. When you croak, you really move rapidly with this stream of well-being. In other words, the stream of well-being is not only dominant, it's all that there is. So while you can be in this physical body and you can fume and fuss and give yourself a lot of grief and point in opposition of the stream to the point that you beat yourself up pretty good and then claim that there cannot possibly be a stream of well-being because your life is going so badly, we want to say to you, if you would let go of your resistance and start going with the flow, you will discover how good this stream can be to you.
Rule number 3, tune to the frequency.
Everything is tremendous teaching, but when it comes to the channeling, I'm like, I get lost.
Well, actually, it's a good thing that you don't, in this sense. We don't want it to be something so unusual either, because the fact is, everyone who you see around you is an extension of source energy, and everyone has access to this broader knowing. In fact, through the years, as our way of explaining who we are and who you are and how it all blends together has evolved, this analogy that we offer about this vortex, this vibrational place isn't even the right word, vibrational state of being, where if you tend to your vibration, then you enter the vortex and you become one with what's there. That's the best definition of channeling that anyone could ever give. A basketball player who learns his skill, who gets tuned in to the rhythm of who he really is, often describes being in the zone. And it's not so different from being in the vortex. In fact, some of his extraordinary abilities, when he's really tuned in like that, of being able to recognize his time and space, of being able to judge the distance from where he is and the trajectory of the ball that he is throwing. In other words, all of that is because he is using more of his resources Scientists have long said that humans use but a small percentage of their mental capacity, even as they're probing brains and putting contraptions on them to measure activity. And so you're really accurate when you acknowledge that everyone, the beasts of your planet, are all doing it all of the time. In other words, they have not given up their awareness of their relationship with their source energy in order to please others. The domesticated ones tend to do it more, but for the most part, the beasts of your planet are tuned to that frequency. It's why you can see a flock of birds flying in formation in perfect rhythm with one another. It's because they are operating out of the one mind to which they are all vibrationally in sync.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 4, move up the emotional scale.
Do you understand that you never get it done and you cannot get it wrong? And the reason that you can't get it wrong is because it's never done. So even though it may sound or feel out of balance and maybe even wrong, that it really isn't wrong, because in the feeling of wrongness, you're giving birth to your opinion of what would be righter. And the source within you so trusts your opinion of what would be better for you that the source within you embraces that idea completely and becomes a vibrational equivalent to it and holds steady there until you find your way there. We've talked about the fun of croaking. You're still not there, are you? We've talked about the deliciousness of releasing resistance through what you call the death experience. And we've talked about releasing resistance through meditation, quieting the mind. We've talked about releasing resistance through appreciation, but you have to be somewhere in the vicinity of appreciation to release resistance. But do you know, with every feeling of relief that you find as you make your way up the emotional scale, with every feeling of relief, there is the releasing of resistance. And so every effort that you make to release a little resistance is really worth the effort, because in time, because of the vastness of the variety of your life, the subjects that are alive and active in your now are enough for you to release all resistance that you've accumulated over a lifetime. Do you know that? You don't have to go back and make peace with some wrongdoing that happened 20 years ago or 30 years ago or yesterday. You don't have to go back and fix all of those things, because whatever is active in your vibration now is bringing you current, real life, active, poignant, meaningful now matches. You're attracting the vibrational evidence that shows you what you're doing. Do you know that what you're living and the way it is playing out is your vibrational indicator? Do you know what's going on in your body is just an indicator of your vibration? Do you know that what's happening in your life in terms of relationship is just a vibrational indicator? Do you know the money in your bank account is a vibrational indicator? Everything that is manifested, the car that you're driving, the house that you're living in, the clothes that you're wearing, the condition of your body, everything about your life is a vibrational indicator. And those indications of vibration are being shown to you all day, every day, in the form of the emotion that you feel. So if you leave here with one decision within you, and it goes like this: I now understand the importance of recognizing how I feel, and I do care about feeling as good as I can feel about that and that and that. So somebody you love tells you a lie, and it hits you hard. And you think, they shouldn't lie to me. They should trust me more. I wish they wouldn't lie. And then you try to wrestle them to the ground, and you try to figure out why they are lying, and you try to figure out where the lies started, and you try to understand the motive of the lying, and all you do is get yourself in a scramble because you can't begin to understand it. You couldn't sort it out if you had 100 lifetimes to do it. But you can recognize that your attention to this subject is causing you discomfort right here and now, and you could choose a better feeling thought. So you find a thought that goes something like, I don't understand where they're coming from, and that gives you a little relief. And then you think of a thought such as, well, I have told a lie before, and that might make you feel better too. And then you think a thought such as, the only time I've ever lied was because I didn't think the person would like what I thought to be the truth. And I wanted them to feel as good as they could feel, so maybe there is some compassion in lying somewhere, and you feel a little better. And then you think, I don't know why I'm making such a big thing about this. And then you think, I can't even remember what the subject at hand was. And then you think, I think I've been making a big deal out of nothing. And then you think, this is a person who I really love. And then you think, it really doesn't matter what they're doing. It really only matters how I feel about them. And then you think, I should not ask them to behave in certain ways in order to love them, because I am one who offers unconditional love. And as you work your way through issue after issue with person after person and subject after subject, before you know it, within 1 or 2 or 3 days, certainly 4 or 5, and absolutely within 30, you will have had enough real life experiences show you the vibrational evidence of what's going on with your vibration that you can clean it all up. Within 30 days, you can have cleaned up enough of your vibration. And by clean it up, all we mean is find a better feeling thought, find a better feeling thought, find a better feeling thought, find a better feeling thought. That do you know that you are 30 days or less from being a vibrational match to the source that is really you? To the reason that you were born, to the coming forth into this physical experience, to the living the joyous life experience that you've come to live, to the being a vibrational match to what's in your vibrational escrow, to the getting inside everything that you've ever asked for. Do you know how close you are in terms of time to having everything that life so far has caused you to ask for? It's such a short distance. It just requires some caring about how you feel, and a willingness to move yourself deliberately up the emotional scale and back into vibrational alignment with who you really are. As you do that every day, you'll see the world a little more through the eyes of Source. And as you begin to view your magnificent world through the eyes of Source, you will then revel in your beingness and in that of others. And you will feel pride and worth beyond physical description. And you will begin to express to others, I've come forth with great reason into this physical body, and that reason is for joyous expansion, and I wish that for all.
Rule number 5, ask.
If I am to understand that we create our own reality through our thoughts powered by our feelings.
Not powered by your feelings, indicated by your feelings.
Indicated by our feelings.
The thought is the power. And the combined thought becomes more powerful. And law of attraction responding to it is the real engine. Feelings indicate.
So how does this work with the people in Burma and China over the past few weeks that have suffered such tragedies?
Well, we know it's hard to hear, and we're going to explain it from broad perspective. The first thing that we so want you to remember is that what you call death, that you all dread so, is not like you think it is. In other words, it's just re-emerging into the fullness of that which you are. And in the same way that a woman suffering from the negativity of her own life and therefore causing the breakdown of her own body finds Alzheimer's as the bridge into the pure positive energy, there are many populations who find catastrophes that are hard to understand from the outside point of view as a bridge into pure positive energy. If you start with the premise that is the valid premise that we know, that you are joy-seeking beings who are coming forth for the joy of life, And you come from source, from a vantage point of understanding, not just that joy is your quest, but that joy is your legacy, that it is your inherited right. Is it not inconceivable that you could be set up for tragedy and for trauma and for the horrors of death? In other words, you just have to, with all of this, begin to wrap your minds around another way of understanding what you call life and death, that we are calling life and more life and more life. We said a little bit ago that when you look at the broad view of who you are, this experience that you call my whole life in this body is such a short snap of an experience that from the broader point of view, there is a humorous, adoring respect for the way you see your lives with all of its trauma and drama that is just not understood or experienced from non-physical perspective. It would be like you walking into a movie that someone had told you was going to be really good, and in the first scene you say, this is the most horrible thing I've ever seen, and just getting up and walking out. And the others in the theater then having a funeral for you. And being horrified that you didn't hang in there with them and see the movie to the end, when you said, this isn't the kind of movie I wanted to see, and I've had enough of this, off I go. So the first premise that is flawed is the idea that death is a bad thing. So we understand, we hear it often. People say, if I create my own reality, then how do you explain a large number of people creating such a horrific or even a common reality? And we say, well, when you think about how it is that most people offer almost all of their vibration in response to what they are observing, it makes you understand that it's not an unusual thing for a population to have a similar vibrational offering, because most of them are not thinking purposefully. Most of them are observing and therefore having a knee-jerk response to what they are observing. Then law of attraction exaggerates that, because you think a thought which causes you to feel a way, and it also causes you to set up a point of attraction which causes you to experience something which then you observe, which causes you to offer a vibration, which you then observe, which causes you to offer a vibration. And so there are these patterns. You see it as you travel around the world. You see different segments of your world vibrating similarly, you see. And so it is not surprising that people in areas would offer similar enough vibrations that they would co-create an event. But then we want you to step back even further and realize, we said it just a little bit ago, and let's exaggerate it here again, that there are 3 steps to the creative process, and whether you know it or not, whether you become a deliberate creator, one who is deliberately offering thought and therefore deliberately adjusting your vibration for the deliberate point of receiving something, or whether you are like so many people, in fact most people, who are offering your vibration by default. In other words, you're just observing and your vibrations are flowing all over the place. As you are offering your vibration and law of attraction is responding to your vibration, your resulting life experience is coming in response to what you're offering vibrationally. You just cannot get around it. As you think, you vibrate. As you vibrate, you attract. As you attract, you receive. So whether you know it or not, you are sifting through this contrast, and in those experiences that you or almost anybody would call a not wanted experience, a very remarkable thing is happening. In that not wanting experience, there is a powerful launching of what is wanted. And so huge segments of your population are putting great desire over here in vibrational escrow, but the confines of their environment seemingly prevents them from going with the flow of what they are asking for. And so while someone like you could easily experience contrast and you feel more free to turn your attention to what you want and line up with it, some, in fact many, cannot do that. And the fastest way for them to achieve alignment with what this life has caused them to ask for is by re-emerging into non-physical. So large segments of your population are putting forth wonderful things into a vibrational escrow that future generations, even the generations that remain beyond them in your now time, space, reality, will benefit from, you see. And so from that broader vantage point, there is no sacrifice. Now, I want to be clear about something. 3 parts to the creative process. Step 1 says ask. Well, are they ever doing that? Sometimes people will say, in appreciation of Jerry and Esther and Abraham, thank you for coming forth to answer. And we always say, these answers could not be here if someone were not asking. Expansion cannot take place without asking. And so do not underestimate the power of the asking, the power of the asking. And do you know that there are so many who are coming forth from non-physical that understand the power of the answering, that never were not hung up on the idea of asking and aligning and allowing and receiving. They came forth to ask in very powerful ways, knowing that they would contribute mightily to what is being answered. And so if you can step back and get that point of view, that source point of view, then you become one who is at ease with experiences.
Rule number 6, trust the process.
So there is a vibrational version of you that is preceding you. Even now you are in this physical body, just like that vibrational version of you preceded you before you came into this physical body. And when this leading edge, genius, creative, physical you explores contrast and gives birth to a new desire, that non-physical part of you rides that rocket and becomes it. That's what that feeling of excitement or expectation is. When you feel that joyous, positive emotion, that means that you are within the vibrational vicinity of this powerful attraction. And the sensation to you is that it's like a powerful river that is moving downstream. And if you even stick your toe in it, the river will sweep you with its current toward what you are wanting. And when you understand that everything that you want is within that current and it is moving downstream, and you begin to relax and allow yourself to go with that steady flow, everything that you want will begin showing up in your experience. We see so many of you. You take your raft or your boat down to the river's edge, and you get into the raft, and almost without exception, you turn it upstream and begin paddling very hard. We know it is illogical, isn't it? And we say, why not go with the flow? And our human friends think about it briefly and then say, that just seems lazy. The people who try hard, look at them all. Look how hard they try. And those are the ones who are rewarded. I learned it when I was little. The harder you try, the better things will go for you, and there is no gain without pain. I was told that over and over and over again, and since I want gain, then I want pain. So get out of my way and let me paddle. Look how strong I am becoming. And then they point out to us all the other strong ones that are virtuous and valiant and paddling upstream too. And we listen politely because we have seen the big picture, and we know who you are, and we know why you came, and we know that everything that you want is downstream and that nothing that you want is upstream. Without knowing it, most of our human friends have picked up very upstream habits. You've been trained by others who have been paddling upstream very hard. And the art of allowing is about letting go of those oars. And it's easy to let go of the oars when you know that everything that you want is downstream, and when you know that the source energy within you is down there tending what you are wanting. But when you believe that you have to work hard, when you believe that struggle is inherent in achieving, then while we will admit that you can move some physical things around, we have to say to you that creation through action is mediocre at best in terms of the results it brings to you. And that creation through alignment of energy is where all of the masters and all of those that you revere have found their place. You cannot be a magnificent creator, without alignment to the energy of the power that creates worlds. And when you hold yourself apart from it, you know it, you feel rotten, and when you find yourself aligning to it, you feel wonderful. Isn't it nice that you were born with a guidance system that lets you easily know from wherever you stand if the thought you are choosing to say right now, if the thought you're thinking, if the words you are speaking, you can tell by the way you feel if it's upstream in nature or downstream in nature. The way you are feeling right now won't tell you the best thought you've ever thought. It will only tell you the directional choice of your thoughts. It will let you know if you're going toward what you want or away from what you want, toward who you really are or away from who you really are. Jerry and Esther went whitewater rafting, and it was such a fun day. And as they put their boat in the water, there were a lot of them that went. 6 of them went together, and several other rafts full of high school wrestlers. And as they put their boat in the water, not one of them even thought about turning the raft upstream. They knew that fast-moving river was going to have its way with them. Nobody even thought about paddling upstream. And the river guide said to them, first thing, friends, this is not Disneyland. We cannot turn this river off. And this is the thing that we most want to say to you. We cannot turn this river off. Further, you're the one who made the river go so fast. You hit the ground running when you were born. You had so much intention. And all day, every day, you're sifting through that data of life and asking. You're the reason the river's moving fast, and you're the reason that you're going with it or not. You have total control in all of this. And nothing that you're doing has anything to do with anybody else or anybody else's river. In other words, stay out of their boat. And don't invite them in your boat. In other words, the only awareness that you need to have, if you want to utilize the guidance system that you were born with, you want to know one thing and one thing only, moment by moment, thought by thought. Is this upstream or downstream? And then the next statement is, how can I make it more downstream? How can I turn this thought and this feeling more downstream? What could I do to soften the resistance? What could I do to release the resistance a little more? And trying harder is the wrong answer. Trying harder makes the resistance more. It's letting go of the oars that makes it less. It's trusting the process. It's trusting the stream.
And rule number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is know you are a creator.
You keep saying you can be, do, or have anything you want.
If this environment has the wherewithal to inspire a desire within you, this environment has the wherewithal to deliver it to you. No exceptions.
Can you give us a rampage of invincibility so that I feel invincible?
We're going to start where you are and build you into the vibration that is necessary for you to be or do or have anything that you want.
Okay.
I am beginning to understand that I am more than I see here in this physical body. I acknowledge that there is a larger part of me, a source energy part of me, that is truly the essence of who I am. And I accept that a part of that consciousness is now flowing in this physical body. And so there is a sort of duality going on within me, where I have this stable beginning and becoming, and then there is the part of me that is focused here in this physical body. And I understand with clarity the value of the two parts of that which I am. I can feel the eternalness of who I really am, and I can feel the specifics of who I am in this human form on this leading edge time-space platform. And I am beginning to feel appreciation for the contrast that surrounds me, that once I condemned, now I embrace, because I can feel that the contrast is inspiring yet another new idea from me. And I remember feeling a new idea being born within me and hating the birthing of it, because it was an idea that I did not believe, and therefore it brought me pain. But now I'm experiencing the thrill of giving birth to ideas, and even though I don't know how or when or who it will come about, I don't know where, I don't have the details of how it will unfold, I do have faith or belief in the laws of the universe, and I am knowing that I am a creator who, having given birth to this idea, will be given all of the advantages of the resources of Source in order to accomplish it. So while I stand in this place of wanting something that I have no way of figuring out how it's going to be, I am feeling soothed in the awareness of it. No, more than soothed. I not only feel soothed about having given birth to an idea of something that I want, I'm feeling enlivened by it, because the larger part of me knows unequivocally that I am the creator of my own experience, and that larger part of me is not only looking at it and agreeing with it, but has become the vibrational equivalent of it. In fact, the larger part of me has already become what I'm asking for, and so now it's only a matter of the rest of me catching up with it. And now that I know what I know, I don't think this is going to be too much trouble. When I move in the direction of catching up with it, I feel better, and when I move in opposition of catching up with it, I feel worse. And I am so sensitive to the way that I'm feeling these days. I'm so proud of myself, because I'm aware of when I'm going with the flow and when I'm not. I'm aware of when I'm moving downstream and when I'm moving upstream. I can feel when I'm letting myself be who I have become, and I can feel when I'm not letting myself be who I've become. And I'm no longer mad at myself in the moments that I'm not letting myself be who I've become, because those moments only help me to know the difference in the guidance system. I can feel I'm actually molding the clay. I'm finally in the place where I don't need to be the manifested receiver of everything that I want all at once, because I know that it's all coming, that there will never be a time that I will not be sending more rockets of desire into my future. I'm finally beginning to get it, that I never get it done and that I cannot get it wrong, because everything that I'm living is causing an expansion, and I can tell by the way I feel whether I'm moving toward that expansion or not. Finally, I'm beginning to understand that it was never about the fulfillment or the manifestation anyway. These things that I want are only my target to focus upon so that I can ride this river of life. I am fulfilled in the knowing that I am expanding, and I am thrilled in the knowledge that I will never get it done, and I am satisfied, deeply satisfied with where I am. I'm thrilled in knowing that I am where I am, and that I'm putting the boat in the water wherever I am, and my knowledge that the stream is flowing downstream, ever flowing toward all that I have become, is enough for me to feel satisfaction in where I am. No more will I nitpick as I measure the distance between where I am and where I want to be. Instead, I flow on this joyous river, and I experience the exhilarating feeling of motion toward my expansion. I can feel that the source within me loves me and adores me and has become the expanded version. And I can feel that there's no remorse or discomfort whatsoever in the being of my source. My source not for a moment looks at me where I stand and compares where I am to where it is and mocks me in the not achievement. Instead, the source within me that is expanded as a result of what I have lived stands in loving appreciation of all that I have become and calls me never-endedly toward it. And now I get it, that that's what life is, that the duality of me, that the source energy that was willing to come forth, that expanded out further, and now the physical part of me that's willing to catch up, I now get my place in this universe. I'm important to the expansion of the universe, and it's time for me to receive the benefit of my expansion. And now I know how.
Good evening, guys. As we live, laugh, and love our way to infinite mind wealth, I'm reminded of an example that I've heard Will Smith and a few others share before. And it is the example of when we're trying to improve ourselves and we're trying to grow and become better and be good people every single day, be the best people we can be, you have to look at it through an example of like emptying the ocean with a ladle. When you actually visualize that, you know, it seems ludicrous and ridiculous, but it's funny in one sense because it provides the example of, even though you have this small ladle and you're just slowly trying to remove, let's say, droplets of negativity in the world, each and every time you do it, you make progress, even though it might seem insurmountable. But it's a reminder of how much work there is to be done, and we're all in it together. Have a great evening, everyone.
I've worked with this really great powerlifting coach for the last couple months, and it's been great. My programming's been more dialed in. I've had somebody who can pay attention to, all the little mistakes that I'm making that I would otherwise overlook. And I've made progress, and that's been nice. But after training for a decade now, what I've realized is that the biggest thing is just get in the gym and don't miss reps. Put your reps in. If you do that, then the actual program that you're on, it might help you a little bit in the short run. And maybe if it's really dialed in, you got a great coach, then it could help you in the long run too, a little bit. Maybe your peak would be a little higher. But if you just put your reps in and don't miss workouts, and you do that for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, I don't know, how far would you get as long as you're doing a reasonable program? Probably pretty far. Even if you don't have the best coach, you probably get 95% of your potential out. And I think a lot of times, this is true not just for habits, but like any kind of endeavor that people go into, they try to optimize the things that make like the last 2% of difference. Like people want to get in shape and they're like, what knee sleeves do I need? What's the best protein powder? What workout shoes should I buy? What running
Olympic shoes should I
right?
wear in? Yeah.
And it's like, dude, just don't miss workouts for 2 years and then get back to me. That's the thing that makes 98% of the difference is, are you putting your reps in?
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, James Clear, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, get clarity.
The process of change usually starts with self-awareness. Now, you can change without being aware of it, but you're not usually in control. It means that the environment shifted or the circumstance or situation changed and you changed in response, but you weren't really influencing it in any meaningful way. So it starts with self-awareness. Then the next step, which you already mentioned, is kind of, we could call it different things, call it deliberate practice, call it routine, or whatever, but you're consciously doing the behavior. So you're putting an effort to practice it.
Is there, just to stop you there, is there any tricks, that you have found as far as that part of it, because people don't get started, they have too high of goals. I've heard a ton of different ones, but could you share with us, some tips on that part of it?
So I think there are a couple, maybe two, let's pick two strategies that you could use right away. So the first one is, a lot of people feel like they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. And what I mean by that is they think, I need more willpower, I need more motivation, I need more persistence, I need more drive. And certainly, those are all important qualities in life. But the truth is we often make statements about how we want to change in very vague ways. We say something like, this time it'll be different, I'll just eat better, I'm going to try harder, whatever. And instead, if we have clarity, and you could use, there are two strategies in the book that I talk about for this. One is implementation intentions. So it is an intention to implement a particular behavior. So the simplest way to do this is you fill out a sentence that says exactly when and where the behavior will occur. So I will go to the gym on Monday at 5 p.m. at this address, or I will journal at this coffee shop at 6 a.m., blah, blah, blah. And the more clear that plan is, the more likely you are to follow through. And there's a bunch of research studies that show that people are more likely to get their flu shot, quit smoking, recycle, exercise, basically any kind of habit you can think of.
Rule number 3, hack your process.
I divide a habit into 4 different stages. And so just from a high level, those stages are cue, craving, response, and reward. So the cue is something that gets your attention, like you see a plate of cookies on the counter, that's a visual cue. Or the ambulance comes behind you on the street and you hear it, and so you pull to the side of the road, like that's an auditory cue. Or your phone buzzes in your pocket, that's like a physical or tactile cue. And so it can be any of the senses, but usually it tends to be visual. Humans are very visual creatures, so that tends to be the most predominant sense. But the cue gets your attention. The second step is the craving, which is dependent on how you interpret the cue. So whether you get a craving or the motivation to act, whether you predict that it would be useful to take a response, depends on the meaning that you assign to the cue. So if you have two people who walk into a living room and they see a pack of cigarettes sitting on the table, the first person might, they've been a smoker for 10 years and they see it and they get this craving of, oh, I want to pick a cigarette up and smoke. So they interpret that visual cue as favorable. The second person has never smoked a day in their life, and so they see the cigarettes and they just think, oh, it's just a pack of cigarettes, and they move on. And so it's really about the meaning that you assign to that visual cue that determines whether you act on it or not. Then there's the response. And finally, the response is the actual habit or action itself. And then finally, there's the reward or the outcome. So visual cue, you see a plate of cookies on the counter. Craving, you interpret them as favorable. You predict, oh, that'll be sweet, sugary, tasty. So you response, grab one, take a bite. And then finally, the reward. And the reward serves two purposes. The first is it satisfies the craving that came before the action. So you predicted that the cookie would be tasty and sweet. And once you take a bite, it is, in fact, sugary, tasty, sweet. So that resolves that craving. And then the second thing that it does is it teaches your brain what to repeat for next time. Because when actions are followed by a feeling of pleasure, when it's enjoyable or you solved the problem you were facing or you had some kind of successful feeling at the end of the habit, it feels good. And your brain's like, hey, that was enjoyable. I should do this again next time when I'm in a similar circumstance. And so it's actually closing the feedback loop and training your brain what to do again and again. And once you've done something enough times and gotten the outcome that you hoped from it again and again and again, the feedback loop gets really tight and you can do it pretty much on autopilot. You don't even really think about it. You're just sort of automatically, whenever you put a shoe on and see a shoe untied on your foot, that's the cue. And you know, oh, I just go ahead and tie the shoe. And that's how I get this reward that I'm looking for of having a shoe securely on my foot and so on.
Rule number 4, lower the bar.
The reason a lot of people struggle with that conscious activity is that they pick things that are too big in the beginning.
Right. So I call lower the bar.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the 2-minute rule helps you lower the bar by saying a new habit is something that should take less than 2 minutes to do. So you take whatever habit you're trying to build, whatever ambitious plan you have, read 40 books a year becomes read 1 page, or do yoga 4 days a week becomes take out my yoga mat. And sometimes people resist this a little bit when I say it first because they think, all right, well, I know the real goal isn't just to like take my yoga mat out. I know I actually want to do the workout. And if I know that, and it's like this mental trick, and I know it's a trick, why would I fall for it? And so my suggestion, if you feel that way, is force yourself for the first few days to only do it for 2 minutes.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, change your identity.
I forget which study it was, but it was said something along the lines, it was a dietary study. If you said, I can't have that food, you were far more likely to eat it than if you said, I don't eat that food.
Yeah, I read about this one.
That's a decision, right? I think it was in Ferriss's 4-Hour Body.
Yeah, they brought people in. They did this. They had them do like some test that was just fake. It was just they thought that was the actual experiment, but of course, in psychology experiments, it's never the actual experiment. But anyway, as they walked out of the room, they offered them either a chocolate bar or some healthy snack, a granola bar or something. I don't know. Anyway, but during the test, they had to either repeat phrases or fill out phrases that were like, I don't eat ice cream, or I don't, miss workouts or things like that, or I won't, or I can't. I don't, or I can't. I can't eat ice cream. I can't work out. I can't miss a workout, that kind of thing. And all the people who said I can't, who felt restrictive, were far more likely to opt for the chocolate bar than the people who said I don't, which again comes back to this form of identity. Imagine, this is an example I mentioned in the book. Imagine you have 2 people who are trying to quit smoking and you offer both of them a cigarette. And the first person says, oh, no, thanks, I'm trying to quit. And the second person says, oh, no, thanks, I'm not a smoker. same thing. They're both turning down the cigarette, but the first person still identifies as a smoker. They identify as someone who's trying to do something that isn't them. Whereas the other person signals this shift in identity. Oh, no, thanks, I'm not a smoker. They no longer see themselves in that way. And it's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's another thing to say, I'm the type of person who is this. And in a sense, true behavior change is actually identity change. Because once you believe that that's who you are, you're not even really trying to change your habits anymore. You're just acting in alignment with the type of person you already believe yourself to be. It's like, no, I'm the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. So I'm not like convincing myself to go to the gym. That's just who I am. I just work out, you know? Identity change is at the root of pretty much all behavior change.
Rule number 6, develop great habits.
Habits allow you to solve the problems of life with less energy and effort than you would otherwise need. And, you know, all life requires energy to exist. If you don't have energy, then you don't survive. And so energy is very precious for that reason. And your brain is looking for ways to conserve it whenever possible. You know, this makes just logical sense, right? Like if you imagine like our ancestors living on the savannah, if you could forage for berries in a patch that's 100 meters away, then why would you bother foraging for berries in a patch that's like 10,000 meters away or on the other side of the mountain or whatever, right? Like you're going to seek the path of least resistance to get the results that you want. And habits are sort of a shortcut, a mental shortcut that your brain uses to do that kind of thing on a daily basis. So take, for example, the habit of tying your shoe. The first time you do it, you don't know how to tie your shoe and you have to think carefully about how to make the knots and someone has to teach you how to do it and so on. But after you do it 100 times or 1,000 times or 10,000 times, pretty soon you can tie your shoes while you're talking to somebody or thinking about your to-do list for the day. You just pretty much can do it on autopilot. And so in a small sense, tying a shoe is like a problem that you face on a daily basis, and your brain has automated the solution. And habits allow you to do that in all different areas of life all the time. You automate the solutions to the recurring problems in life, which means you can focus on other things and direct your attention elsewhere. So for that reason, habits are like so central to our experience that we often overlook them. Like you don't even really think about brushing your teeth or tying your shoes or unplugging the toaster after each use or all these other things that you do each day. But your habits are the thing that help you function and operate in the world in a more efficient manner.
Rule number 7, design your environment.
You don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. You can decide to design something to make your good behaviors easier and your bad behaviors harder. So when it comes to habits, if you want to practice your guitar more frequently, put it right in the middle of your living room so you run across it all the time. If you want to read more, when you make your bed in the morning, take the book you want to read, put it on top of the pillow. When you come back that night, pick it up, read a few pages, go to sleep. For me, I used to buy apples all the time, and then I would put them in the crisper at the bottom of the fridge, and they would sit there for 3 weeks and go bad, and I'd finally open it up and see them again and get mad. And then eventually, I bought a bowl and put it right in the middle of the counter, and so then when I buy apples, I put them there, I see them every day, and now I eat them all the time. Many of our desires are simply shaped because we have an environment that shapes us in that way. So the moral of the story is I've never seen someone stick to positive habits in a consistent fashion in a negative environment. Maybe you can overpower it once or twice. Maybe you can have the willpower to do the right thing on one day. But if you're constantly fighting against those forces, it's going to be very hard to follow through.
Rule number 8, learn from failures.
There are some experiences in life that have to be lived to be understood fully. Not everything is like that, but some things do, and that's one thing that's challenging. I think about, there's a Naval Ravikant investor, he's got a quote where he says something to the effect of, good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. So basically, you gotta kind of like try and fail, and then you learn, and that's how it happens.
It's all about lessons.
So part of that, I think, is unavoidable. That's just how it goes. Nobody is going to make perfect decisions throughout life, and hopefully, an unexamined failure only remains a failure. An examined failure can become a success. So hopefully, you're at least learning when you make the bad choices.
Rule number 9, build momentum.
One of the most effective feelings, one of the most motivating states is the feeling of progress.
Yeah.
And if you're focused on feeling guilty, blaming yourself for not improving, feeling like, oh, I'm not able to build better habits because something's wrong with me, that's not a very productive state to be in. Whereas if you shift it and say, all right, the problem is not me, the problem is the system. And if I'm going to change the system, then I can do X, Y, and Z. And we can talk about a variety of those strategies. But each time you do that, you take action and you build progress and momentum. And so I think it is a much more productive way to approach the process of change because it gives you something to actually work on. I mean, all the rest of these strategies, a lot of the time it's about stuff like, think positive or fake it till you make it or stuff like that. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Like certainly if you want to think positive, it sounds better than thinking negatively. But my focus is much more on practical action steps. How can we make the process of behavior change actionable and give you something to do to design a system where you're more likely to succeed? And so I think that's just a better place to spend your time and energy.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is find a good coach.
Having a coach forces you to be aware of things that you would otherwise overlook, right? Like this is what I call the downside of building good habits, which is you build habits and in the beginning you develop fluency and skill and ability and things become easier. But after a little while, once a habit has been established, the downside of having a habit is that you can do it good enough on autopilot, which means that you start to overlook your mistakes and not think about how to get better. And so what you need is a coach to keep you on that razor's edge so that you keep building habits, but it also forces you to stay aware of what the next level of performance is. And that's kind of the challenge of continuous improvement. It's like a cycle. It starts with awareness. If you're not aware of what your habits are or what your behavior is, you don't have a chance to change it. Then from that awareness, you go to deliberate practice, where you have to effortfully try and work to get better. And eventually, the thing that you were deliberately practicing becomes a habit and becomes automatic. But once it becomes automatic, that's not the end. You have to return to awareness and see where you're at now.
How to
start the cycle again. One of the phrases I use, and I have this in the book, is that habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. So it's like the same way that compound interest, accrues through finance, the effects of your habits multiply over time. And so often these choices that you make, they're these little 1% improvements for you or against you each day, and they're very easy to overlook on a daily basis, right? Like, what really is the difference between eating a burger and fries or a salad and chicken for lunch? You don't really see a whole lot.
Better.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It tastes amazing in the moment.
That's actually a crucial point that I cover in the book, which is that habits that are immediately satisfying are more likely to be repeated. And so pretty much any behavior produces multiple outcomes across time, right? Like if you eat a donut right now, it's tasty and sugary.
So good.
But in the long run, you gain weight. And so the immediate outcome is favorable, the long-term outcome is unfavorable. With good habits, it's often the reverse, right? Like you go to the gym right now, and it takes effort, you sweat, you have to work hard.
You have to sacrifice your time for Netflix and chill to go train.
The immediate outcome is unfavorable, but the ultimate outcome, you're in shape and in a year or a month or whatever, is favorable. And so the challenge for building good habits and breaking bad ones is often finding a way to pull the long-term consequences of your bad habits into the immediate moment, so you feel a little bit of the pain right now and want to avoid it, and the long-term rewards of your good habits into the immediate moment so that you have a reason to repeat it again in the future. Each behavior casts a vote for the type of person that you want to become. And if you cast enough votes for that type of identity, you start to believe that about yourself, right? Like if you go to church for 20 years, you believe that you're religious. You study Spanish every Tuesday for 30 minutes, you believe that you are studious. So in that way, your habits provide evidence of your desired identity. And I think that is probably the ultimate reason that habits are so important. It's true, like habits can help you earn more money or be more productive or lose weight, and all that stuff is great. But in addition to the external results that habits provide, they also shape your sense of self. They are the engine or the avenue through which you learn to believe things about yourself. Like sometimes people will say stuff like, fake it till you make it. But fake it till you make it is asking yourself to believe something without evidence for it. And you can do that for a little while. You could do it for a day or a week. But eventually, there's a word for beliefs that don't have evidence behind them. It's delusion, right? And if you're deluding yourself, then eventually you give up on that. But the power of doing a better habit each day or casting a little vote for that type of person is that now you have evidence to root your belief in.
Yeah, because so now I've done it for 6 months,
Right? Like, now you have a lot of evidence that you're a podcaster or a good interviewer. Like you do this over and over again. Each time you cast a vote for believing that about yourself. And you aren't delusionally believing that you're a good interviewer. It's because you've shown up and done it hundreds of times.
Right.
And so I think that that's true for any habit, large or small.
that they provide evidence of the desired identity or the type of person that you are.
There's this professor at the University of Florida